Welcome to the NBA DFS build. I'm Kevin Roberts. I'm about to go over the 5-game DraftKings slate for Thursday, April 4th. Shouldn't take too long. Pretty straightforward slate so far. Not a crazy amount of injury news, which I'm actually kind of sad about because there's not a lot of really good value on this slate. I actually ended up cashing and breaking even last night despite the slate not really going that well, honestly. Malachi Flynn scores 50 real points. After, by the way, I loved Cade Cunningham last night. I thought he was a smash play. And then he was in, and then at the last second, he was ruled out. So that's like the second time I had lineups with Cade just sink to the bottom of the abyss. So annoying. And then to boot, Flynn didn't even start, so I think like not even 1% of the field had Flynn and could benefit from that. And then he gets 50 real points, 66 fantasy points, just absolutely ridiculous. Anyways, onward and upward. Let's try to win some money today. This is the DFS build. Our process is to help point out the top plays, help point out the values, help point out what game environments you're really going to want to be attracted to, and then also try to consider player projection, ceiling, ownership, all that stuff to help you build the best possible lineups. How you actually go about doing that is up to you. I prefer to use a lineup optimizer to help me in my process. I do tend to play single entries only, or for the most part anyways. And it does help me do that. The one I'm using right now is DFS Hero, and you can give it a shot and get 15% off if you hit the link below in our video description. But yeah, let's dive right into it. We got Sixers and Heat starting the night off, 2.5-point spread. Heat are favored at home with a 210 total. Not a very inviting game environment at all. Joel Embiid did make his return from a very long layoff with, he had this knee issue, and they said he was going to be limited or they'd monitor his minutes closely, and he played 29 freaking minutes. That doesn't feel like much limitation. But it is worth wondering if he's going to be like held at like that 30 or lower, strict minute limit, or if he's going to be like just held out of this game and just like as games go, because he's already out of the MVP running at this point. So we don't know. We don't know if he's going to even play, and if he does play, is he just going to be capped at like 30 minutes? Judging by the 29 minutes, though, if he does play, I think he's viable. You can play him as a GPP dart, but unless we know that he's going to push for 35 to 40 minutes at 11K, I can't do that. And on top of the fact, it's a tough road game against Bam Bam and the Heat. They rank 7th against centers, and he, I believe, look at the last 5 games. I mean, he's been fine, but he has not like blown up when he's faced the Heat lately. It's just not a good spot. Everything across the board tells me I don't want to play Embiid. So cue the 50 burger for sure, right? Tyrese Maxey, Tobias Harris, also both questionable. Obviously, if any or all of these guys are out, we get a lot of value with Philly. We get Kelly Oubre, we get Kyle Lowry, Paul Reed, Buddy Hield, and Cam Payne. All of those guys should be on our radar, depending on who is out. I don't know who's going to be out yet. But if Tyrese Maxey is out, Lowry looks fine at 4.9. Cam looks great at 4.5. If Embiid is out, you can play Paul Reed at 4.6. If Tobias is out, you can feel better about Buddy Hield at 4.3. And if those guys are in, Tobias is just okay at 7K, not a priority at all with Embiid back. Maxey at 8.5 is still in play, even with Embiid there, but not as appealing. But he would look really, really good at 8.5 if Joel sits. Across the board, though, I'm not really looking at Philly unless we get access to the value. If any of these main guys are out for them, then they become appealing. But the road date with Miami is not good. So for right now, I'm crossing the Sixers off my list. On the other side are the Heat. Bam Bam leads the way with a 42-point fantasy projection. But he's not in a great spot either. He's 8.5K. He's a little bit too expensive for me in this spot against Embiid down low. I don't like it. I never like targeting centers against Embiid. And Philly's defense is just way better when he's in there. So Bam is a no-go for me unless Embiid is out. If Embiid is out, I think his price is fine and you can give it a shot, but he's not. He still wouldn't be a priority for me. I think Jimmy and Rozier stand out the most as things stand. I think Philly's defense is scarier with Embiid there. So I would not call them priority plays by any means. But I would give Jimmy the lean at 8K just because I think Bam would be less effective if Embiid plays, and Jimmy would have to do a little bit more of the heavy lifting. I don't think anybody else from Miami really stands out for me. Let's see, Duncan Robinson minutes. Yeah, he's just, I don't know. I really don't want to rely on Duncan Robinson tonight. I honestly think this game is a full fade for me unless we get some value out of it. Next up, we got Knicks and Kings at the Madison Square Garden. The Knicks are 3.5-point home favorites. This game is a 213.5 total, so it's a little bit better than the game we just went over, but it's still not super, super appealing. The Knicks have a tendency to, they have a top 10 defense. They don't play super fast, so the Kings can obviously change that a little bit, but it's not exactly the most inviting spot. It's worth noting Malik Monk is out. He's got a sprained MCL. He's expected to miss about a month. So that opens up minutes big time for Keon Ellis at 4.9K, maybe even Davion Mitchell at 3.9K. I think these guys are just going to mostly be splitting these minutes. And then it makes Keegan Murray at 6.1K look a lot better too. Obviously up top, you can go to Sabonis and Fox. I'm not going to talk you off that. The matchup is not good. So I don't really like paying a premium for these guys in a tough road spot. But Fox is still a pretty good price. He's not going to be owned. I'd probably prefer him of the two. He's got the slightly softer matchup. But the guy I'm looking at mostly would be Keegan Murray at 6.1. Nice mid-range play who's going to push for 35 to 40 minutes. He's a secondary option here after those first two guys, so the Knicks might not focus on him quite as much. Also worth noting that Josh Hart, pretty good defender, is questionable for this game, and they don't have OG, so their defense on the outside might not be quite as good, which could help Keegan a bit. Harry Barnes at 5.1 is also fine. And you can take a shot on, like I said, Keon Ellis or Davion Mitchell. I would just lean with whoever starts. I'll give them a shot. But it's not like they stand out as absolutely amazing plays by any means. The Knicks side I really do like. I've been saying it for a while now that Jalen Brunson is a little bit too cheap, and he projects really well basically every night. The only problem is they aren't maxing out his minutes like they are for some of the other guys. So while Brunson is a really good play, totally fine, have no issues with playing him, it's hard for me to make him a priority when I don't know that he's for sure going to play as much as the other Knicks guys are going to play. He's still getting fine minutes, so let's see what he's been looking at. 36, 35, so maybe I'm a little bit wrong even there because he played 43 against the Spurs. I just know that in recent games he'd been going 33, 30, 29. It's just if the game gets out of hand, Brunson's one of the first guys to have his minutes get pulled back is the thing I'm getting at. Lately, it has not been the case, so maybe just ignore that. And at 9.1K, he looks really good. Josh Hart is questionable, but he's playing monster minutes. If he's in, he's viable. His price is up at 7.3, so I'm not super interested in him. Really interested in Dante DiVincenzo either way, but really, really interested in him if Hart is out, because then Dante would go from playing 35, 38 minutes, probably playing 40. McBride at 5.9 is basically a core play for me. Too cheap for a guy that is playing literally 45 minutes nightly. OG is out, and Hart being questionable only helps him. So he looks really, really good as well. You can always take a flyer on Hartenstein. His minutes have been kind of all over the place, but he's a really, really good per minute guy. Where's he at on the season here? Where was that? I just had it here. Fantasy points per minute, 1.05. So that's third best on the team. Technically second best because Alec Burks comes in at 1.27, but that's mostly from when he was with the Pistons. So Hartenstein at 5.4 is totally fine. I'm really, though, looking at Brunson up top, and then you got Hart, DiVincenzo, and McBride, with McBride being my number one next play of the day. All right, Hawks at Mavs. This is the biggest spread of the night, 11.5 points. The Hawks are road dogs, as they should be. This game is tied for the top total at 227.5. If ownership is not going to be on this game, I love this game. I really like it anyways, but it just, if everybody flocks to the game with 11.5 point spread, I'm going to get off of it probably. But DeJounte coming in with almost a 50-point fantasy projection, not even 10K, monster roll, really good matchup, 21% boom rating, and he's not even 10% owned. That's nuts to me. It's a little bit tough to prioritize him over Luka, Jokic, over those two guys, but he's capable of getting us 60-plus fantasy points. He's not even 10K. So I like him a lot. Jalen Johnson is carrying monster ownership at 25%, as he should be. He's had a crazy triple-double in his last game. I think that was last night, was it not? I can't even remember. All this stuff just bleeds together. Last night, 76 fantasy points, 28 real points, 11 assists, 14 rebounds in 37 minutes. So this is the second leg of a back-to-back set. Could they pull back his minutes a little bit? Could they even rest him? Sure. If he's in, though, at 6.9K, it's a really tough fade for me. Really good matchup. He had 38 fantasy points the last time he played the Mavs, so it's obviously a spot that he can thrive in. It's proven. They ranked 25th against forwards. The only downside is he's been nicked up. He just played yesterday, and he's going to be really owned. I don't mind eating 6.9K Jalen Johnson chalk, though. He looks really good. I definitely prioritize him over Bogdan Bogdanovic. Clint Capel's price coming up at 6.5. He's okay, but I'm not like super excited to go there. DeAndre Hunter at 5.6. I think you can still do that. His projection is decent enough, and he's not owned, so he's an okay lower tier value or mid-range play. Bruno at 4.1K. Okongwu is still out, so let me just double check if his minutes are still good. 18 last game. He's been playing 20 plus in like the last 4 or 5 games. So yeah, I think he's still a decent value play, especially relative to this tiny slate. On the other side, you have the Mavs. It's probably just Luka or bust for me. The only problem is it's 5 games and Luka's 12.5K. Very, very expensive. He is carrying ownership at 24% in DFS here already, but the Hawks are like the dream spot. He has the best projection of the slate by like 6 fantasy points. He's got 31% boom rating. He put up 101 fantasy points the last time he played the Hawks. Granted, Kyrie Irving was not in that game, and you can't expect that again, but just obviously he has the best ceiling by quite a bit on this slate. And if this game stays close, he's a pretty good bet to get 70 to 80 fantasy points. So if I can do it, I do want Luka on this slate. Having said that, I don't know if there's enough value to actually comfortably get Luka and build out a good lineup. It's very easy to be like, oh, you got to play Luka against the Hawks. Sure, I do want to play Luka for sure. He's like, if I create 150 lineups, I want him in like 60+% of those lineups. But I don't play 150 lineups because it's just not what I like to do. And if I'm going to create one main lineup, do I really feel good about the lineup I get if it's 12.5K Luka with the value we have? Not right now. So as of now, I probably won't play him. But if we get enough value that we can feel good about, sign me up for Luka against the Hawks. On the flip side, Kyrie is totally viable at 8.7. He just doesn't exhibit the ceiling we really need. It is a really good matchup, pretty good leverage play against Luka technically, but right now he's actually carrying the same exact ownership as Luka. If that sticks, I would definitely not be in on Kyrie. I'm not going to play a chalky Kyrie and watch him get 40 fantasy points. I mean, because just look at what he's been doing. He's fine. He does have a ceiling, but 39, 41, 37, 45, 39, 37. It's just like, where's the blow up game? It isn't there. He can score well and he can rack up assists, but this is Luka's team. So pushing 9K, I'm not interested in Kyrie unless Luka's randomly ruled out. Not super into any other Mavs. I think you can always take a shot on Tim Hardaway Jr. at 4K off the bench with some usage. PJ Washington, Daniel Gafford are priced decently and project okay. It is a good environment. So if you need, lower 5K or, under 6K price guys to round out your lineup, Gafford and PJ Washington are totally fine. All right. So Warriors and Rockets. This is actually a pretty underrated game. This is the other game with a 227.5 total. It is a 4-point spread. So in theory, it's a little bit more appealing. You do have two. Let's see. Let me double check that. Yeah, you got two teams here that can push the pace a little bit, which lends to the 227.5 total. And the Rockets do have some appealing guys with Şengün, obviously still out with his leg injury. On the Warriors side, though, let's just see here. We do have Jonathan Kuminga questionable. If he is out, you can look at Jackson Davis at 6K and Draymond Green at 6.4K are going to be kind of sharing the 5 minutes. Klay Thompson and Andrew Wiggins are both in play at 5.9, 5.8K. I'm not rushing to those guys. They don't really project very well. And right now it feels like Kuminga might play. So the Warriors just feel kind of stretched a little thin. Like everybody's there. Chris Paul's there. Podziemski's there. Like just everybody's there. And nobody really stands out. I think Dre at 6.4 is fine. And if you want to go GPP season with Steph Curry at 8.6K, I think you could do a lot worse. I mean, we know Curry does have a ceiling. He hasn't really exhibited much lately at all, so he's just going to continue to be unowned. So 8.6 unowned Curry on a short slate, I don't hate that, but nobody here is a priority. On the other side, Jalen Green, still just hovering right around 9K, monster usage, really nice upside. I mean, he has just been absolutely slain. Last 2 games he's been kind of quiet, but the games before that, 58, 68, 47, 56, 40, 67, 2 other 50-plus fantasy point games. When he's on, this dude is cooking. Warriors ranked 28th against shooting guards, so this looks like a pretty good spot for him. He hasn't really fared that well in the previous 2 meetings with the Dubs, but, I mean, he hasn't had this crazy usage, and he has been on like this. Interesting thing, he's not that owned, 11%. That's pretty appealing. So it's hard to prioritize 8.8K Jalen Green, but if you can get there and he displays his ceiling, that's going to be an interesting GPP play. FPP is totally fine at 7.8K. He's carrying ownership, though, so I might kind of get away from that a little bit if I can. Amen Thompson at 6.6 is just fine. Jabari Smith is probably the standout for me here at 6.3K. 35-plus minutes. Decent projection. Probably has the worst matchup of them, but I like the price and I like the role, so I'm okay with him at 6.3. And then you have values like Cam Whitmore and Dylan Brooks. They just look like filler, just like slide-in plays. If Cam Whitmore is going to be chalky, that is tough to feel amazing about. But he is seeing consistent minutes, 20-plus minutes. So 4.1K. Actually, Cam Whitmore might be my favorite Rockets play overall. All right, last game of the night, Nuggets and the Clippers. This game has a 4-point spread. It's surprising at 221 total. I would imagine it's going to be a little bit slower and more of a defensive battle than what this total is suggesting, just based off how these teams operate. But you never know. I think Jokic is probable. Let me just double check the statuses here. Jokic is probable, and Jamal Murray is again questionable. If Jamal Murray is out, Jokic looks awesome at 11.9K. Matchup with Zubac isn't really super appealing, but Jokic is matchup proof. So if all the ownership is going to flock to Luka at 12.5K, saving $600 and ending the night with a 4% owned Jokic sounds fucking awesome. I'm really into that. And he's got a 23% boom rating. He has had some big games against the Clippers, even despite it not being the most amazing matchup. And, I mean, you don't need Jokic to go score 40 points. You need Jokic to get a triple-double, and then he's going to smash. So that's definitely within the realm of possibilities. If Murray is in, I still like Jokic just fine. All that logic still applies. It's just I think his ceiling comes down a little bit. At Murray at 8.3K would be a totally fine play. I just think we're going to talk about a different option that looks a little bit more interesting. And then I'm not super excited about any of the value unless Murray misses. If Murray misses, then you can start talking about some of the value on Denver. Christian Brown, he's getting minutes. I mean, you honestly can look at Christian Brown at 3.8K just because he's getting 25-plus minutes these days. Reggie Jackson, if he's out, 25-plus minutes at 5.1K, totally fine. You can use those guys for sure if you want to. For the most part, it's going to be Jokic or bust for me when it comes to Denver. On the other side of the Clippers, Kawhi Leonard is out. So basically everybody is in play here. Paul George and James Harden get the biggest boosts. They project well. It's not a very good matchup, but, I mean, they're 8.2 and 8.4K. I think I'd have a slight lean on George just because right now he's projecting for significantly less ownership. Harden projects better. He has a better ceiling. He has a better boom rating. He's in the optimal 21% of the time. So, I mean, and he's cheaper. So across the board, Harden's going to be chalkier and is the better play. But for tournaments, if you're not going to play Harden, I do like PG-13 a lot. I also like pairing them just fine. The only problem is if you pair these guys, how easy is it to go get like that top level stud like Sabonis, Jokic, or Luka. I don't know. Zubac at 5.8K. Pretty good value, pushing for 30 fantasy points here. Foul trouble would be a concern against Jokic, but he's also going to be super needed against Jokic, so I think that mitigates that concern. With no Kawhi, Russ at 4.8K off the bench is viable. Norm Powell at 5K looks pretty good too. And then you can definitely consider Terrence Mann at 3.7K, and even Amir Coffey if he gets the spot start. 3.1K, that would be a lot of savings that could do us some good. All right, that does it for me. As things stand, I love Luka, but if I'm going to get one stud, it actually is probably going to be Jokic just because based off of ownership. And then I'd be looking to get in whatever Knicks that makes sense, starting with McBride, then maybe looking at DiVincenzo just because the minutes are just awesome. And then if we're looking for value, I'm looking at Cam Whitmore. I'm looking at the Clippers value. And if I'm fading any game, I'm fading the first game of the night, the Heat and the Sixers. Hopefully that helps you out a little bit. If it does, please give this video a like and also consider subscribing to our channel, the DFS Build. Thanks for watching and good luck tonight.